So this lesson's not too long, so you'll be okay. All right, so we're going for input, talking about point slope form and writing linear equations. So let's go ahead. We have a couple of language of the discipline words. Draw your gate icon. These are words we need to know. And let's review one. One review word is slope. Slope is known as the letter m, right? Y equals mx plus b. But it's also known as y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So that's slope. We'll also review what we know as standard form. And we know that standard form is ax plus by equals c. The reason I'm reviewing these is because the more you write them down, then the easier it's going to be to remember them when you get to your test. Then we have slope-intercept form, which we learned at the beginning of this week. And we know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So the final form that we're going to learn today is called point-slope form. Here we go, and you're going to highlight this after you write it. Point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m, which is the slope, times the quantity of x minus x. Let me tell you what each of those parts represents. Okay? I'll use purple. All right? y1 represents the y coordinate. M represents the slope. And x1 represents the x coordinate. Please label that for me. Go ahead and highlight that in your notes because it's important to know that form. That way when you go back to do your homework, it's bright and you can see it. Or box it in another color or whatever you need to do so that you can see it when you get home for homework. So let me give you an example of point slope form in input. So I'm going to go ahead down here and I'm going to write point slope form. Point slope form. Okay, give yourself a little note here. I'm giving you an example. A line passes through point 3, 4 and has a slope of 2. Go ahead and write that down. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, okay, is know that that's how a question in point slope form is going to ask you how to solve, okay? You can also be using the formula that we need to use, which is the slope formula up here. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? And then equals a slope of 2, okay? So I'm going to turn this paper over. So my equation again is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Huh? Can you see it? Elizabeth? Okay. Equals what our slope is going to be. Go ahead and write that. I hear the million out here. Is this one? There you go. All right, so they gave us the points. The points that they gave us were 3, 4. So I have 3, 4, and I have my slope that equals 2. All right, so I have y2, which I don't have y2, they only give me one coordinate. So y2 minus y1, which is 4, over x2, which they didn't give me because I don't have a second point, minus x1, which is 3, here's x, that's 3, equals the slope. My slope is 2. Okay, in order to get rid of the x2 minus 3 out of the denominator, I'm going to multiply x minus 3 on both sides. You don't have to have the 2 there. You don't need it. So I'm going to multiply by x minus 3 on both sides. So now my x minus 3 over 1 and my x minus 3 cancel. I'm left with y minus 4 equals 2 times x minus 3. And that's point slope form. That's my answer. Just to give you an example. Because I have y minus y equals slope times x minus 3. So again, at the end, you want it to look like point slope form, which is in this formation. Okay, let's go to modeling, because it gave you an example and input. And I'll show you how they're going to ask you these questions for homework and on your test. Here's example 1. Write an equation in point slope form and slope intercept. Write an equation in point slope form and slope intercept form. Okay, so let's look at example A. They give you the point -1, 7, and they're telling you that the slope is -3. So the first thing that they ask me is how to write it in point slope form. So I need to take that equation and write it down first. Okay? So I'm going to write down point slope form in my notes. Y minus y1 equals m, which is the slope, x minus x1. Thank you, Mrs. Kaufman. Write that down. Now we're going to plug those numbers in from the points that they gave us over here. So I have y minus, the y that they gave me is 7. So y minus 7 equals m, which is my slope. They told me the slope was -3. -3 times the quantity, because again, I want it to look exactly like this. X minus my x1 is -1. Uh-oh, there are two negatives next to each other. That means it's a positive, so we need to change that. Y minus 7 equals -3 times the quantity of x plus 1. So there's my first answer in point slope form. Okay, but not only does it ask me for point slope form, I gotta do it in slope intercept form. So this is what I would do if I were you. Take that equation that we just did y minus 7 equals negative 3 times x plus 1. And use that equation to turn it into slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do is see, it's just like an algebra equation. Okay, what can I do to make each side at its simplest form? Well, I need to distribute negative 3. So I'm going to get y minus 7 equals negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. So the first thing I did was distribute. Okay, then the next thing I need to do in order to get it into slope-intercept form is get rid of that 7. So I'm going to add 7 on both sides. Negative 7 and positive 7 cancel. I'm left with y equals negative 3x. Negative 3 plus 7 is plus 4. And that's slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Please write that down. Write it down. Okay, so right next to the problem that we just did, because we found point slope and slope intercept, let's write the steps to remember when we get home. Step number 1, you're going to write the equation for point slope form. So step 1, you're going to write the equation for point slope. Then what we did next was we substituted the numbers that they gave us for the coordinates. Substitute those numbers in. Okay. Oops, that's step 2. Step 3, we boxed our answer. Step 4, we converted to slope-intercept form. And step 5, we boxed that answer. Because you need to have 2 answers. Okay, so going back to the problem, we wrote it down, we plugged the numbers in and simplified, and made sure that it looked just like that. Then we took that equation and used it to write slope-intercept form. Convert it to y equals mx plus b. That's it. Pencil up when you have that written down. Okay. Almost. Thank you. So now sometimes they're going to give you the point and the slope, but in example B of this, they just gave us 2 points. Go ahead and write example B. And the 2 points are negative 1, negative 5, and 2, 3. Well, if they don't give me the slope and I have 2 points, let's look back at my language of discipline. What could I use? I got it. I can use these because they gave me 2 points to choose from. Good morning. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is write that down. Slope, we don't know it, is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So write the equation down first. Now let's plug those numbers in. M equals, okay, well this is x1 and y1. This is x2 and y2. So y2 is 3 minus y1 is negative 5 divided by x2 is 2 minus -1. When two negative signs are next to each other, they become positive. So m equals 3 plus 5 over 2 plus 1. So my slope, which is represented as m, equals 8 over 3. Now again, they're asking me to write it in point-slope form and in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's write down the equation for point-slope form. I'm going to write it over here. Okay, the equation for point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Okay? And we can use either point. I'm going to pick 2, 3 just because they're both positive. So we're going to use the point 2, 3. All right? So now, looking back at what we wrote down, because we wrote down the steps, okay? Our steps tell us that we need to write the equation for point slope form first. I did that. Now I need to go back and substitute those numbers in, okay? So here we go. And y minus, my y is 3, equals m. Oh, we found the slope over here. 8 over 3 times x minus, my x in the coordinate is 2. So I already did that first one. That's my first answer. I wrote it in point slope form. The second part to the problem, they want us to write it in slope intercept form. So I'm going to take that exact equation and turn it into slope intercept form. So this equation is y minus 3 equals 8 over 3 times x minus 2. Well, I'm going to need to distribute first. So I need y minus 3 equals 8 over 3 times x is 8 thirds x minus 8 over 3 times 2. 8 times 2 is 16. 3 times the 2 would be over 1 is 30. Okay? From there, it tells me that I need to write it in slope-intercept form, so I need to get rid of that 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3, positive 3 cancel. Y equals 8 thirds x. Can I add 3 to 8 thirds x? No. Why?
Because they're not like terms.
They're not like terms. Very good. And then I have 16 over 3 plus 3. Well, what I would do is say, okay, 16 over 3, let me change that into a mixed number. So I'm going to do 16 divided by 3, goes in 5 times. I get 15, and oh, I'm left with 5 and 1/3. Well, 5 and 1/3, okay, and that's going to be a negative. So negative 5 and 1/3 plus 3. Let's take that whole number, negative 5 plus 3. What's negative 5 plus 3? Negative 2. And then I'm left with that 1/3. Okay. The next example they're going to give you is a graph with points on it. So we're going to have to draw a graph. For example, C. Let's see. Let's make our graph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6. 1, 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Okay, so they're going to give you a graph. Now on that graph, they have, let's see, They have 1, 2. This is 0. And they have a point on -3, -1. And then they have a 1. Well, I'm going to have to figure out 3 things. The 2 points and the slope to be able to put it into slope-intercept form. And then convert it. Okay, well, I know that I have -3, -1. And I have 1, 2. But the last thing I need to find is my slope. So what am I going to do? I'm going to count my rise over run. So let's go from this point. Count the rise. 1, 2, 3. To the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm counting from here to here. And I went up 3 to the right 4. So my slope is 3/4. I went from this point to the other point. I went up 3 units to the right 4 units. So I have 3/4. Rise over run. That means either going up or down and then going left or right. So now, what's point slope form? Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. Okay, plug it in. Y minus, I'm going to use this one, 2 equals my slope, 3/4, m is my slope, times x minus 1. Again, you can use either point. I just like to use the ones that are positive because it's easier. But that's totally and completely up to you. Alright, so I need to distribute my 3/4 x. Y minus 2 equals 3/4 times x minus 3/4 times 1, which is going to be 3/4. 3/4 times 1 is 3/4. Last thing I'm going to do is get y by itself. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Add 2 to both sides. -2, +2 cancel. I'm left with y equals 3/4 x. And then I have -3/4 plus 2. Okay, which is going to end up being a positive 1 and 1/4. So when it gets to fractions, sometimes it kind of gets a little crazy, but you can do it on the side. You can always do your -3/4 plus 2/1. You know you have to find a common denominator, right? So you have -3/4 plus 8/4. -3 plus 8 is 5/4, which is 1 and 1/4. You could write 5/4 as your answer up here, or you can do 1 and 1/4. Okay? Kind of, sort of? Yes, no, maybe so? Yes? One more in this example, we're moving on to the last example after that. They give us -5, 13, and they give us -10, I think that's 9. Yes, -10, 9. Okay, so whenever you have 2 coordinates, you put it in point slope form first to get it into slope-intercept form, okay? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I write down the point slope form first, okay? Then I plug the numbers in so I can convert it to slope-intercept form. All right, so I'm going to leave y. y1 means take one of my coordinates. Again, I'm going to pick the second one. So I'm going to say y minus, the y is 9, equals m, my slope, which, I don't know, and x minus 10, negative 10. Now wait a minute, I don't have my slope. So can I write it in point slope form yet? No, I gotta find the slope first. So how am I gonna do that? Use the formula y2 minus y1, over x2 minus x1. So I gotta find the slope first. So my y2 is 9 minus my y1 is 13 over x2 is negative 10 minus x1, which is negative 5. You see where we got those numbers from? This is x and this is y. This is x2 and y2. Remember, that number is just there to mean this is your first coordinate that they gave you. That's why the 1 is under the x or y. It's the second set of coordinates they gave you. So I have 9 minus 13, which gives me a negative 4, over negative 10 plus 5. Negative 10 plus 5 isn't negative 5. Well, negative 4 over negative 5 is positive 4/5. When you divide a negative by a negative, it's a positive, like Mr. T, right? Remember that? Okay, so now I have the slope. So now I could add that in. Y minus 9 equals 4/5, which is the slope we just found, times x minus negative 10. When two negatives are next to each other, they become a positive. So y minus 9 equals 4/5 x plus 10, because two negatives next to each other are positive. Now I'm going to distribute y minus 9 equals 4/5 times x is 4/5 x plus 4/5 times 10, think of it as 10 over 1. 4 times 10 is 40, and 5 times 1 is 5. Can that be reduced? Yeah, 40 divided by 5 is what? 8. Good. So I have 4/5 x plus 8. Is that in slope-intercept form yet? No, I have to just add the 9 on both sides. Add 9, you're almost there. Negative 9 and positive 9 cancel. Y equals, I'm left with 4/5 x, and 8 plus 9 is 17. And I'm done. So there's a couple of steps here. Step 1, we needed to find the slope. Step 2, we needed to substitute into point slope form. And then lastly, we needed to convert to slope-intercept form. Please write down these steps next to your work. I'll zoom in. Find the slope, substitute into point slope form, and then take that form and put it into slope-intercept form. The last part's easy. That's the hardest part of the whole lesson. Once you have those steps, put your pencil on me. Yeah, that literally is going to be the hardest part of the whole lesson. You're welcome. Alright, here we go. This is the easiest part of this lesson. And last example section. Put example 2 there. Almost there. This one's the easiest part. It's really fun, I promise. Alright, your directions are to write all answers in standard form. So they want you, whether they give it to you in point slope form or whether they give it to you in slope intercept form, they want you to convert it back to standard form. Now, let me think. What's standard form? Go back to your notes. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Write that down. Okay, here we go. Example A. Y equals negative 3x plus 4. What form is that written in? Is it slope intercept, point slope, or standard?
Wait, did you say?
Look at your notes under your language of discipline. What form is this written in?
Slope intercept.
Slope intercept form. Good. They want me to write it in standard form, which is right here. Ax plus by equals c. Yesterday in our notes, remember we talked about when you write it back in standard form, x and y have to be all on the same side, right? So how do I get x on the same side as y? Add 3x. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. On this side, I have positive 3x plus y equals my negative 3x and my positive 3x cancel each other out. 4. Does this match this standard form? Yes, so that's your answer. Box your answer.
Excuse me.
Everyone's welcome, please. Alex.
Sit down.
You can.
I'm a big visitor.
You're a big visitor. Welcome, Alex.
Welcome to the University of Texas.
Hi,
But if
Alex.
you wanted to, I can do it.
No, I think I'm actually doing it.
You sure?
Yeah.
There's no grass into it.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone say thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay. Okay. Easy. Letter B. Here we go. Shh. Still on your foot. Y equals 8 over 3x minus 2 and 1/3. Miss Kern, so many fractions. No, it's okay. We can do it. We need to just convert this to standard form. This is like yesterday's homework. Okay? But the first thing I want to do is, do we want to keep this in mixed number form? No. So the first thing I'm going to do is make that into an improper fraction. So y equals 8/3 x. Remember the improper fraction? 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7 over the denominator 3. Haley and Elizabeth. Okay, so now, okay, this is like yesterday's homework. In standard form, are A and B fractions?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
No. It's a simple, solid number. So what do I need to do to get rid of the 3 in the denominator? I need to multiply by 3 on both sides. That's like multiplying by 3 over 1, right? If I were to cross cancel, I'd be left with 8x minus 7 and 3 times y. Ms. Graham, how did you get that? Again, if I take a little side note, if I had 8 over 3 times 3, that's like multiplying by 3 over 1, right? And if I cross canceled, I'm left with 8. That's how I got 8x. Same thing if I were to do that with the negative 7 over 3. If I had 7 over 3 times 3, that's like 3 over 1. That's like 21 over 3, which is 7. Or you can cross cancel. So again, I multiplied 3 by 8 over 3, and I multiplied 3 by 7 over 3. Okay? Is that in standard form yet?
No.
No, I gotta get x and y on the same side. So I'm gonna subtract 8x from both sides. okay? On this side, that negative stays attached to the 8x. Negative 8x positive 3y equals my negative and my positive cancel. This is still attached to the 7, guys. Don't just write 7 equals negative 7. Now it's in standard form. One more. So which one's checking you on that? Okay. The last problem before checking for understanding. C. Y equals 3 over 4x plus 1 and 1 4. This is just like the last problem.
Have some poster. Please.
You don't need to, just open the cabinet and get what you need. Okay? Just like the last one. Do I want to leave this as a mixed fraction? No. So I'm going to turn it into an improper fraction. Y equals 3 over 4x plus my improper fraction. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So I have 5 over my denominator, which is 4. First step, make it into an improper fraction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Second thing I need to do, get rid of these 4's that are in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by what is in the denominator. To get rid of the 4, I'm going to multiply by 4. On both sides. So I'm left with 4y equals 3 over 4 times 4 is 3. Bring down my x. Plus 5 over 4 times 4, again, it's just like it's multiplying by 4 over 1, is 5. Almost there. To get it into standard form, I need to get x and y on the same side. Subtract 3x from both sides. Remember, that negative stays attached to that 3x. Mr. Martin, are you taking notes? Minus 3x plus 4y equals 3x minus 3x, cancel out, 5. So now, my equation's in standard form. ax plus by equals c. Thank you, Alex.